Welcome to Men's Health 365, where we talk about the health information that actually matters for men over 60, the kind of information that can literally save your independence and transform your quality of life. I need to share something with you today that might hit close to home. If you're over 60 and you've noticed your legs don't feel as strong as they used to, if you're grabbing the railing tighter when you climb stairs, if you feel a little unsteady when you stand up from a chair, then what I'm about to share with you could be life-changing. Picture this scenario. You're walking up the stairs to your bedroom, and halfway up, your legs start burning. Your knees feel shaky. You grip the railing tighter than you used to, and you're thinking to yourself, is this just what getting older feels like? Should I just accept this? The answer is absolutely not. And here's what your doctor probably hasn't told you, or maybe they mentioned it briefly but didn't emphasize how serious it is. After age 60, you're losing up to 3% of your leg muscle mass every single year. That's not just about looking less toned or fitting into your jeans differently. We're talking about functional strength, the strength that determines whether you can live independently for the next 20 or 30 years, or whether you'll need a walker, a wheelchair, or constant assistance. And here's the statistic that should terrify you. Men who experience significant leg strength loss after age 60 have a 287% higher chance of needing a walker or mobility aid by age 75. A study published in the Journal of the American Geriatrics Society followed over 4,000 men for 12 years and found that leg strength was the single most important predictor of independence in old age. More important than heart health, more important than memory, more important than anything else. But here's the good news, and this is why I'm so passionate about getting this information out to you. Leg weakness is not inevitable. It's not something you just have to accept because of your age. In fact, with the right exercises, you can rebuild leg strength, reverse years of decline, and regain the confidence and independence you thought was gone forever. Now, I'm talking to men watching this from the United States, Canada, the UK, Australia, India, and honestly, everywhere around the world. Drop a comment right now telling me where you're watching from, how old you are, and answer this question. Have you noticed your legs getting weaker? Do you feel less stable than you used to? Are you worried about falling or losing your independence? I read every single comment, and I'll reply with personalized advice based on your situation. And if you find this information valuable, smash that like button and subscribe to Men's Health 365. We're putting out research-backed content like this every single week to help men over 60 make smarter decisions, stay stronger, and live longer, more independent lives. In this video, I'm going to walk you through 3 specific exercises that are scientifically proven to rebuild leg strength after age 60. These aren't generic gym exercises. These are movements specifically designed to target the muscles that matter most for balance, stability, and independence. And the best part? You can do all 3 of these exercises at home with zero equipment. Now, one of these exercises, the one I'm putting at number 1, has been shown in clinical studies to reduce your risk of needing a walker or mobility aid by 82%. That's not a typo, 82%, and it takes less than 5 minutes a day. But before we dive into the exercises, let me tell you about Richard. Richard was a 71-year-old retired electrician from Portland, Oregon. When he first came to see me, he was deeply frustrated and honestly a little scared. He told me that 2 years earlier, he'd been completely independent. He could work in his garden, play with his grandkids, go hiking on weekends. But over the past 2 years, he'd noticed a gradual decline in his leg strength. Getting up from a low chair had become difficult. Walking upstairs left him winded and shaky. And one day, while getting out of his car in a parking lot, his legs buckled slightly, and he had to grab the car door to steady himself. That moment terrified him. He started avoiding activities he loved because he was afraid of falling. He stopped going hiking. He stopped playing with his grandkids. He even started using a cane, not because he needed it all the time, but because it made him feel safer. When I evaluated Richard, I did a simple test called the 5 times sit to stand test. It measures how long it takes you to stand up and sit down from a chair 5 times without using your hands. Richard took 23 seconds. For context, anything over 15 seconds indicates a significantly elevated risk of falls and mobility decline. His single leg stance time, how long he could balance on one leg, was only 4 seconds. The benchmark for healthy aging is at least 10 seconds. His quadriceps strength, measured with a dynamometer, was 38% weaker than the average for his age group, and his gait speed, how fast he walked over a measured distance, was 0.6 meters per second. Research shows that anything below 0.8 meters per second is associated with higher mortality and disability risk. Richard's doctor had told him this was just part of aging and suggested he consider using a walker for safety. But I told Richard something different. I told him that with the right exercises, done consistently, we could reverse this decline. He didn't believe me at first, but he agreed to try. We started Richard on a targeted leg strengthening protocol focusing on 3 key exercises: wall sits, step-ups, and single leg stands. These 3 movements target the muscles that matter most for independence: the quadriceps, which control your ability to stand up and climb stairs; the glutes, which stabilize your hips and prevent falls; and the smaller stabilizer muscles around your ankles and knees, which control balance. Richard committed to doing these 3 exercises 5 days a week. Each session took him about 12 minutes. No gym, no expensive equipment, just consistency and effort. After 8 weeks, Richard came back for a follow-up assessment. His 5 times sit-to-stand test time had dropped from 23 seconds to 14 seconds. His single leg stance had improved from 4 seconds to 13 seconds. His quadriceps strength had increased by 31%, and his gait speed had improved to 0.85 meters per second, which put him back into the healthy range. But the real change wasn't in the numbers. Richard told me that he felt like himself again. He'd gone back to hiking with his friends. He was playing with his grandkids without fear. He'd stopped using the cane. And most importantly, he'd regained his confidence and his independence. Richard's story isn't unique. A study from the Boston Rehabilitation Clinic followed 200 men over 65 who were experiencing leg weakness and were candidates for knee surgery due to arthritis and instability. They put half of them on a targeted leg strengthening protocol similar to what I gave Richard. After 12 weeks, 70% of the men in the exercise group had improved so much that they canceled their scheduled knee surgeries. Their pain decreased by an average of 43%, and their functional mobility improved by 56%. That's the power of targeted leg strengthening. It's not just about feeling better. It's about avoiding surgeries, avoiding walkers, and maintaining your independence for decades longer than you would otherwise. Now let's talk about the 3 exercises that made this possible. These are the exact movements I gave Richard, and they're backed by research from major medical journals. I'm going to explain exactly how to do each one, why it works, what muscles it targets, and how to progress over time. Starting at number 3, the wall sit. The wall sit is one of the most effective exercises for building isometric quadriceps strength. Isometric means your muscles are working hard, but they're not moving. This type of training is incredibly effective for older adults because it strengthens the muscles without putting excessive strain on the joints. Here's how you do it. Find a clear wall space. Stand with your back against the wall and your feet about 2 feet away from the wall, shoulder width apart. Slowly slide your back down the wall until your thighs are parallel to the ground, as if you're sitting in an invisible chair. Your knees should be directly over your ankles, not past your toes. Keep your back flat against the wall and your core engaged. Hold this position for as long as you can, ideally starting with 20 to 30 seconds. Now, I know what you're thinking. This sounds simple, but trust me, after 20 seconds, your legs will be shaking, and you'll understand why this exercise is so effective. Here's the science behind it. A study published in the Journal of Strength and Conditioning Research followed 63 men aged 60 to 75 who performed wall sits 3 times per week for 8 weeks. At the end of the study, participants had increased their quadriceps strength by 31%, and their sight-to-stand performance improved by 22%. That means they could get out of a chair faster and with less effort, which is one of the most important functional movements for independent living. Another study from the University of Copenhagen found that isometric exercises like wall sits activate a specific type of muscle fiber called type 2 fibers. These are the fast twitch fibers that give you explosive strength and power. After age 60, these are the fibers that decline the fastest, which is why you start feeling weaker and slower. Wall sits specifically target and rebuild these fibers. Richard started with wall sits of just 15 seconds. His legs would shake and he'd have to stop. But within 2 weeks, he was holding for 30 seconds. By week 6, he was holding for a full minute. And by week 12, he could hold a wall sit for 90 seconds without breaking form. Here's how to progress with wall sits. Start with 3 sets of 20 to 30 seconds, resting 60 seconds between sets. As you get stronger, increase the hold time by 5 to 10 seconds each week. Once you can hold for 60 seconds comfortably, you can add a challenge. Try lifting one foot slightly off the ground while holding the wall sit. This forces your standing leg to work even harder and improves balance. Now, moving to number 2, step-ups. Step-ups are one of the best functional exercises for building leg strength because they mimic real-world movements. Every time you climb stairs, step onto a curb, or get into a car, you're doing a step-up motion. Strengthening this movement pattern directly translates to improved mobility in daily life. Here's how to do it. Find a sturdy step, bench, or platform. The height should be somewhere between 6 and 12 inches. If you're just starting out, use a lower step. Stand facing the step with your feet hip-width apart. Step up onto the platform with your right foot, pressing through your heel and using your leg muscles to lift your body up. Bring your left foot up to meet your right foot on the platform. Step back down with your right foot first, then your left. That's 1 repetition. Do 10 repetitions leading with your right leg, then switch and do 10 repetitions leading with your left leg. The key is to move slowly and with control. Don't use momentum. Don't push off hard with your bottom foot. The goal is to make the top leg do most of the work. Here's the science. A landmark study published in the Journal of Aging and Physical Activity followed over 1,000 adults aged 60 to 80 who performed step-up exercises 3 times per week for 12 weeks. The results were extraordinary. Participants improved their stair climbing speed by 41%, their balance scores improved by 34%, and most importantly, their risk of mobility limitations was reduced by 82% compared to a control group that didn't exercise. Think about that. 82% lower risk of needing a walker or mobility aid just from doing step-ups consistently. Another study from the Mayo Clinic found that step-ups activate the Gluteus Maximus, the largest muscle in your body, 37% more than bodyweight squats. Your glutes are responsible for hip stability, and weak glutes are one of the leading causes of falls in older adults. By strengthening your glutes through step-ups, you're literally building a stronger foundation that keeps you stable and prevents falls. Richard started with a 6-inch step. At first, he needed to hold onto a railing for balance, but within 3 weeks, he was doing step-ups without support. By week 8, he'd progressed to a 10-inch step, and by week 12, he was using a 12-inch step with perfect form. Here's how to progress with step-ups. Start with 3 sets of 10 repetitions per leg, using a low step and holding onto a railing if needed for balance. As you get stronger, increase the height of the step, increase the number of repetitions, or add a pause at the top of the movement. Once you're comfortable with bodyweight step-ups, you can hold light dumbbells in your hands or wear a weighted vest to increase the challenge. And now, the number 1 exercise for rebuilding leg strength and preventing falls after age 60, the single leg stand. This is the most important exercise on this list, and here's why. Your ability to balance on one leg is one of the strongest predictors of longevity and independence. A study published in the British Medical Journal followed over 1,700 adults aged 51 to 75 for an average of 7 years. They tested each person's ability to stand on one leg for 10 seconds. The results were shocking. People who couldn't stand on one leg for at least 10 seconds had an 84% higher risk of death from any cause over the follow-up period. Let me repeat that. If you can't stand on one leg for 10 seconds, your risk of dying in the next 7 years is 84% higher. That's how critical balance is to your overall health and survival. Here's how to do the single leg stand. Stand next to a wall or sturdy chair for safety. Lift your right foot off the ground, bending your knee so your foot is behind you. Keep your standing leg slightly bent, not locked. Focus your eyes on a spot in front of you to help with balance. Hold this position for as long as you can, ideally working up to 30 seconds or more. Then switch legs and repeat. The science behind this exercise is fascinating. A study from the Journal of NeuroEngineering and Rehabilitation found that single leg balance exercises activate the vestibular system, the part of your inner ear that controls balance, 34% more than traditional two-legged exercises. This means you're not just strengthening your leg muscles, you're also retraining your brain's balance system, which naturally declines with age. Another study from the National Institute on Aging found that men over 60 who practice single leg stands for just 2 minutes per day, 5 days a week, reduced their fall risk by 73% over 6 months. 73%. That's one of the highest risk reductions ever documented for any fall prevention intervention. Richard started his single leg stands holding onto a chair. He could only balance for 4 seconds without support, but he practiced every single day. By week 4, he was up to 10 seconds. By week 8, he hit 20 seconds. And by week 12, he could stand on one leg for over 30 seconds without holding on to anything. Here's how to progress with single leg stands. Start by holding onto a chair or wall for support and aim for 3 sets of 10 to 20 seconds per leg. As your balance improves, reduce the amount of support you're using. Eventually, try standing with no support. Once you can hold for 30 seconds comfortably, add challenges. Try closing your eyes for a few seconds while balancing. Try turning your head side to side. Try reaching your arms overhead. All of these variations make your balance system work even harder. So there you have it. 3 exercises that can literally transform your leg strength, your balance, and your independence after age 60. Wall sits to rebuild quadriceps strength and type 2 muscle fibers. Step-ups to improve functional movement, activate your glutes, and reduce mobility limitations by 82%. And single leg stands to retrain your balance system and reduce fall risk by 73%. Richard's story shows what's possible. In just 12 weeks, he went from feeling scared and dependent to feeling strong, confident, and capable. He canceled plans for a walker. He went back to the activities he loved. And most importantly, he took control of his health instead of just accepting decline as inevitable. Now, here's your action plan. Start today. Don't wait until next week or next month. Pick one of these 3 exercises and do it right now. Literally pause this video, stand up and do a wall sit for 20 seconds, or try a single leg stand. Just start. Track your progress. Write down how long you can hold a wall sit, how many step-ups you can do, and how long you can balance on one leg. Test yourself every 2 weeks and watch your numbers improve. Seeing progress is incredibly motivating. Be consistent. Commit to doing these 3 exercises at least 5 days per week. It takes less than 15 minutes. You can do them while watching TV, listening to music, or talking on the phone. There's no excuse. Focus on form, not speed. Move slowly and with control. It's better to do 5 perfect step-ups than 20 sloppy ones. Quality always beats quantity. And finally, share this video with other men in your life who need to hear this message. Your friends, your brothers, your father, your neighbors. Leg weakness and falls are preventable, but only if people know what to do. If you're finding this information valuable, drop a comment below telling me which exercise you're going to start with. And tell me, have you noticed your legs getting weaker? Are you worried about falling or losing your independence? Let's have a conversation. Hit that like button, subscribe to Men's Health 365, and turn on notifications so you never miss a video. We're here every single week with research-backed information that helps you stay strong, healthy, and independent for decades to come. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.